Hi and welcome back. My name is Kieron Lyons and thank you for joining me in this session. Now in this session we're going to be talking about WordPress and WordPress plugins, which is a very popular subject on the internet. I think with nearly 24% of all internet websites are in fact WordPress based. Now that's probably got something to do with the fact that WordPress is pretty much it's an open source program, which means that anybody can edit it, anybody can work on it, and they can put it. You can put in your own code to it. You can do what you like to it, and it's all perfectly fine. Some of the biggest companies in the world are actually running websites that are web-based, in fact. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the general settings on WordPress, and then we're going to go into I don't know, probably SEO, or maybe not SEO. Anyway, it doesn't really matter because we're going to there's so many plugins that it's just not funny how many plugins that we're going to actually install. But the thing is, the majority of the plugins are of vital importance to you, and so for that reason alone it's really worth your while watching this video, and we'll see what we can do. The other thing is then we're going to go into some advertising campaigns in terms of creating a sales page, a landing page and such like, and just lots of different things that will help you get your WordPress site to the next level. So I do understand that many of you will already have WordPress websites. Some of you may be only starting out, and that's perfectly fine too. But for this purpose, for the purposes of this training, I'm going to assume that you have your basic WordPress installed, and I'm going to stop at that. So even if you just got a WordPress theme installed, or WordPress installed, with or without a theme, that's perfectly fine, and we'll go from there and see how we get on. Okay, so I think enough said on that subject. I think we should kick off, and I'll go switch over now to my screen, and we'll see how we can get on. If you have any questions, any problems, please contact Kieron support at kieronlyons.com, and as usual I'll always be happy to answer each and every one of your questions. So with that said, let's begin. Okay, so here we are on my WordPress installation, which I've set up for this demonstration, and as you can see it's just a normal WordPress installation, nothing special. But the first thing that we're going to do is go over to Pages, and we're going to remove the page, the sample page, and we're going to send it to the trash. And we're going to do the same with the posts, and we go over to Posts, and we're going to move that to the trash, and then down to Comments. Let's see if there's anything in there. So no, there's nothing in there. Okay, so that's all of our pages, posts and comments removed. The next thing is we have to go to the installed plugins and take a look at this. And we have a couple of things in here that we don't necessarily need. Now for the first thing is I'm going to activate the Hello Dolly just to show you what exactly it is and what its point is. So if I refresh the page, and you can see up here in the right hand corner, it's nice, you're still glowing, you're still crowing. That's the words, and if I repeat that, and it says this time Hello Dolly. And just one more time, just to give you an idea of what it does. One of your old favorite songs from way back when. And basically, it's just giving you the lyrics of Hello Dolly. and it's not something that I'd need or that I would want. So therefore, I'm going to deactivate that by pressing the deactivate button on the Hello Dolly plugin. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to delete that. And it's asking me now, yes, delete these files, no return to the plugin list. So we want to delete them. So I'm going to press the delete key. Now, the next two things that we have here is, well, one, there's a newer version of Jetpack. Well, we might as well update that just to keep everything sweet. Okay. So we have the Jetpack for WordPress, which I'll come back to and explain a little bit later, as well as we have the Ask Commit. And as I've said, we'll come back and talk on that subject. But first of all, before we do that, what I would like to do is to draw your attention down here to the settings. And what we're going to do is to basically go through each of the settings in this WordPress setup. Okay, so what we have is the general settings of the WordPress installation. And a lot of people spend copious amounts of time on this page, and it's really not necessary. Because, for example, they start to worry about the site title, as you can see it here. It's the tagline, just another WordPress website. It doesn't matter what is put in here because we're going to override these a little later on when we start to do the SEO. So you really don't need to worry about the site title, the tagline, and such like. So moving on, we then look at the WordPress URL, and that's the website address. And as you can see it there again, here you can enter your email of where you want to be notified of any changes to your website and such like. So go ahead and update that and make sure that it's an email address that you actually do monitor. The next thing is anyone can register for membership. Now, with this one, it's probably best at this stage that you don't click on the anyone can register, and I'll cover that in a later module. But for now, unless you're planning on using WordPress as a standalone membership sort of site, I wouldn't be pressing that or checking that check mark because it's really not necessary. Now, the next one is new user default role. And this is quite interesting that, well, let's just go through them. And basically, a subscriber is just somebody who can contribute to the conversation by writing a post or replying to a post, should I say, and they can log into the back end of your website and change their username and password and such like. But other than that, they can do very little else. A contributor can contribute, he can write, but it still needs to be approved. An author is somebody who writes all the time, and an editor is somebody who can edit and write, and an administrator is basically the dog's kahunas, because an administrator can do anything he likes to the site. So for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to leave this as a new user default role as a subscriber, but do bear in mind that the administrator does have all privileges. So with that said, the next thing is to go to the time zone, and what you can see here is obviously the various time zones, and as you scroll up, it will give you the cities and the what like. So for example, here we are in Europe, and so let's say for this I'm going to call it London, and for example, again, if we just go up, we have Europe, Australia, the Atlantic time zones, and you get a bunch of cities and countries where you want to pick your time zone. So do pick what's relevant to you, and you'll be fine. You'll be good to go. The next thing is the date format of how do we want the date to appear on our website. And in this case, it's February 24th, 2014, and the various options. Now, for those of you who are interested, the custom date is FJY. So it would be February, the date, and the year. Most people, however, stick with February 24th, 2014. The time format, again, on your website of how you want it to appear is, well, as you can see, it's 12:13 p.m., 12:13 capital PM, or just 12:13. And again, you have the custom time, which you can also apply. And as far as I'm aware, most people in Europe anyway, start their work week on a Monday. So that's all good, and it's all perfectly fine. So we click on Save Changes. Okay, so let's move over now to the Writing tab, and let's go through each of the settings in there. So in here, what we have is the formatting of the website. How is the website going to display certain things and what have you? So convert emotions like the smiley face and what have you, and WordPress should correctly invalidly nested XHTML automatically. And that's where you, if you added some external content, that WordPress would actually fix it up for you. At the moment, we don't have a default post category because we haven't set up categories, but we can come back and do that later. The default post format is standard, but you do have other options. You have the aside, the chat, the gallery, link, image, quote, status, video, and audio. So just as an example, I suppose for chat, you would have, like you have on your mobile phone, where I send you a text and the text comes back, and it's nested in the chat. Equally, you could have a gallery where it's just basically photographs, links. You would have links on your pages, images, where I would just basically add an image or images to my posts without posting text. That's what I would pick then. The same with a quote. It's just like you're having a conversation with somebody. A status is exactly what it says. I'm making this training video today for my membership, and that there is a status. So that's what that would be. And audio and video equally then could be the manner in which you would be posting to your website. However, for this demonstration, I'm going to leave it on standard. Okay, and moving on then, we come to press this, and this is actually quite useful. If I drag this up here, and let's just say I go to, let's say to Yahoo, and have a look. So I go to News, and we take a look. Okay, Facebook account, sign up, join free today. It's an ad. China, five Californian children infected by polio. So for example, if I wanted to, then I would just go and click on this and just give it a second. And what I do is just write something like found and there we go. So oops, sorry, beg your pardon. So there we go. Found this very interesting article on Yahoo. You should check it out. 5 Californian children infected by polio illness, Yahoo News. And then it allows us then to pick a category if we had the categories set up. Obviously, we could use the tags as well, but again, we don't have them set up at this moment in time. And then we would just click the Save Draft or Publish as you would wish. And basically, that would come out as a post and in this format, but with very little effort. And it's very unique and it's very easy to do. So that's what that's for. And for those of you who are interested, that's why you would use it. Now, the next thing moving on down the page is the post via email. To post to WordPress by email, you must set up a secret email with POP3 access. Any mail received at this address will be posted. So it's a good idea to keep this address very secret. Here are some random strings you should use. So what it's telling you, what it's basically saying to you is that if you are inclined, that you fill out this information here. So you put in your mail server details. You have, in this instance, you would have a specific login as your email. So it would be, it doesn't really matter because it's so secret. So for example, post@KieronLyons.com, and then you would have your password, and then you give it a category, and that would be it, which effectively means that while you're out and about, maybe you want to write a post and you're just sitting in a local coffee shop, you just basically write an email on your phone or on your laptop or your iPhone or whatever it is, and you send that email off, and anything caught by the mail server with that email address will be posted to your blog. And that's pretty cool, to be perfectly honest. I used to use it a lot, not so much these days, but it was very, very helpful on a different site to which we're on now. So the next thing is that we need to be looking at is the update services here. And this is really overlooked by many people. Some people discount it, some people really like it. And I can tell you that it's, you know, you get the doers and the do's and the don'ts, but I would certainly advise you to use this service because there's no harm in it. And what it is basically your update services, which actually, let me go back and let me open that in a separate browser. So what it is basically down here is a list of all the websites when you write something that it will send it out to. So what you should do is basically come in here. You can read about it in here, but just come in, highlight it, copy it, bring it back to your WordPress website. Okay, so what we have here in the update services, WordPress is not notifying any update services because of your site's visibility settings. So the first thing we're going to do is go in and click on this, and we're going to do that. Click on Save Changes. Okay, and so we go back then to writing and come on down, and as we just did before, we just highlight this here and we paste in all of the ping URLs that is available to us, and basically we just click Save Changes, and that's it, it's done. So upwards and onwards, moving on then to the writing side of things. And what this is asking us, blog posts show at most 10 posts, syndication feeds show the most recent. For each article in a feed, show a summary or the full text. And then this one here is search engine visibility, which is to discourage search engines from indexing this site. Now, you might use this when you're actually just building the site, But other than that, I would definitely leave it unchecked, because this will stop the search engines from indexing your site, and it will stop you being found in those search engines. So I saved those changes even though we didn't make any changes. And then we go down to discussion. Now, discussion settings. So here we are on the discussion settings, and what we're going to do now is going to go down line by line and take a look at each of these and see what each one does and what would probably be the most appropriate setting for your website. So the first one here is default article settings, and it's an attempt to notify any blogs linked to from the article. Now, that's a matter of choice whether you do or you don't, but the first thing is that it does take up some resources on your website, and number two, it's basically asking people, other websites, to say to you, hey, we've referenced your article, so it would be really nice if you would link to us. But a lot of people don't do that these days, and it's probably more to do with the fact that what kind of website do you have? And let me explain what I mean by that. You'd want to think of it in terms of, do you have a sales type of website where you're selling goods, you're selling products and services, or do you have a blog website where you're just blogging and you want other websites to link to your posts and to your comments and what have you? And I think the right action is that if you have a website which is informing people of products and services, then you really don't want to be attempting to notify any blogs linked to and from the article. So in that instance, I would definitely uncheck that. However, on the flip side of that coin is that if you are blogging, then you do want to have links from articles to and from articles. So therefore, you would select that. But that is, I want to be clear, that's only where your website is a specific blog. So therefore, for this example, I'm going to uncheck that and leave it all alone. So the next link then, allow link notifications from other blogs, pingbacks and tracebacks. Well, again, that's a matter of using your website resources, and it's not necessary. You don't need it, and I'm going to uncheck it. The reason why is because it's using up resources. It's slowing your site down to a certain degree, and it's allowing your site to basically be looking for the link notifications and from other blogs, it's querying a lot of things that you don't necessarily want. So for the sake of consistency, I would also uncheck that and leave that well enough alone. Allow people to post comments on new articles. So let's talk about this for a second. Allowing people to post comments on new articles. Now, this is one that's it's optional really, it's up to you. Because what it's asking you is, do you want people to comment on your article? And there's two methods of thought about this. That where you do have comments and you're allowing people to post comments on your articles, do you really want somebody posting on one of your articles a comment that might be negative or that might be disparaging in some way? And I think, well, I think no, you don't. On the other hand, there's those in the other camp that would say, well, hell yeah, I want people interacting with me. I want people liking my comments, commenting and posting and what have you. And that's fine. That's fine too. But you're going to have to allocate a certain amount of time and resources to those comments. And is that something that you really want to be doing? So you really need to ask yourself, do I want comments written on my website? And in my particular case, the answer is no. But however, you might choose that, yes, I do want to allow comments, and yes, I do want to monitor those comments and approve them and spam them and what have you. And either you're going to do it or somebody in your team is going to do it. And that's perfectly fine, but so long as you understand what it means. I think personally it would be nicer nowadays is to add the like buttons from Facebook, LinkedIn and what have you, and have people share my content rather than comment on the content. But really, it's really up to you. And so whether you check it or uncheck it, it's really not relevant. Is this going to hurt your search engine rankings by checking or unchecking any of these boxes? Absolutely not. It's not going to make a snowball's difference in what you do in here. So allowing people to post comments is really up to you and what kind of website you're running and whether you have the inclination. Now, most new websites tend to allow comments because they believe that there's life, that there's people coming in and reading their articles and what have you. And it's a false sense of security because Google Analytics or Stats Counter will tell you that anyway. So it's really up to you. And I think we can move on to the other comments and settings. Other comment settings. Now this is, okay, so comment author must fill out name and email. I think, yes, I would leave that checked because you want, some people like to try and build their list, and there's plenty of plugins that you can get for WordPress that will help you with that. So I would leave it if you're trying to build a list by having people comment on your site. Why not have that there? Users must be registered and logged in to comment. Now that I like, and I will always check that because for one reason, it stops spam. And therefore it's basically a time saver and indeed a lifesaver. The next thing is automatically close comments on articles older than X amount of days. Now, why? I don't know why we need this, but it's there anyway. But if you're going to have this, I'd obviously check it, and I would consider the number of days that you want to comment on an article and then close it for comments. Now, that's really a choice for you to make on the comments on your website. And it could be 7 days, 14, 28, and so on. It could be 30, 60, 90 days. But whatever it is, you'd want to consider that one to your own preferences. Okay, so the next one is enable threaded nested comments 5 levels deep. And basically what that's doing is basically what it says. It's nesting the comments, and it's just making it a lot more easy for people to be able to read your comments if you have a popular post and so on. This one here is break comments into 50 pages, top level commenters per page, and the last page displayed by default. Well, yeah, I would, absolutely. I'd check that because what it's doing, it's basically saying that if you had 50 comments of your top level commenters, it would break them up into pages rather than you having one continuous page. And that's pretty nice if you have lots of people talking to you or they're writing backwards and forwards and so on. It just helps manage to keep the blog a lot tidier. Obviously, you want to choose your last rather than your first because it's the last comment that people would be interested in to keep the conversation going, as I've said already. And then comments should be displayed with the older comments at the top of the page. Now, or you could have the newer. And I would think the newer comments would be at the top of the page. And that would be it. You would be done. Okay, so moving on. We've only got a couple more on this page. Email me whenever anyone posts a comment that I would definitely post for sure. I would never leave that unchecked. I would always have the post coming to my email so as I can see who's commenting and see what they're saying. I mean, let's be honest, if that's unchecked, somebody can write a post, even though we've already up here, wherever it's gone here, these two here, where we've basically said the user must be, they must fill out their name and their email, and they must be registered to comment. And so with this turned on, I mean, somebody might go in there and decide to trash you, to basically ruin your day. And you wouldn't like seeing that on your blog. So I wouldn't leave that unchecked at all. I would do it. And I think so should you if you're running a blog where you're allowing comments. A comment should be held for moderation. Just like the one above, I'd check it and keep it, and you either spam it or approve it. Before a comment appears, comment must be manually approved, and I would check on that. Comment author must have previously approved comments. Now, this you can do, and as you can see just down here, comment moderation, it allows you to decide who can comment. So this kind of ties into this one, but comment moderation, hold a comment in the queue if it contains 2 links or more. A common characteristic of comment spam is a large number of hyperlinks. When a comment contains any of these words in its name, URL, or email, or IP, it will be held in the moderation queue. 1 word or IP per line, it will match inside words, so press will match WordPress. So again, comment blacklist, it's pretty much the same as this one here, that it's the bad language file. Basically, you put in the words here that you don't want it to catch, or that you do want it to catch, I beg your pardon, and that would hold the comment in the queue for you to review. Okay, and there is obviously each of the gravitars here, and what we can do is basically, we could select this one here, which would allow us to, it probably would be best if I just do a quick search in, well, in this case in Yahoo. Well, let's go to Google. And there we go. So here we can see my my picture, which is coming from Gravitar, which is here, and it's gravitar.com. And basically, what you do is you sign up for an account and upload your Gravitar, and anywhere where a Gravitar would appear, it will be pulled down from this website. So in my case, this image here is coming from here. So it's probably one of the smartest things you can do is by giving your blog a Gravitar, which will follow you all around the internet. So moving back, let's move on to the next section, and we should be finished. So the next section is media. So in this section, media settings, it's all to do with your image sizes. And to be quite honest, I wouldn't mess with this because you don't need to. I mean, what are you going to change your thumbnail size to 75 by 75? Crop thumbnail to exact dimensions. Normally thumbnails are proportional. So I'd leave these settings alone unless there was some reason for me to change them other than just messing around. And I think it'd probably be best if you did that too. So we'll leave that one alone, and we'll just come on down into the permalinks section, which is the most important part of what we're talking about now today. And so, as you can see, the default view is codecamp.cc and $P=123. So that's how you can see it here in the default. So that would be if I created a page or a post, it would give the page name. So it would be http coachcamp.cc, and it might be best practice SEO, and that's what would show. So the discussion then turns around to what is the best URL in terms of search engine optimization. Well, that's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it. I think most people would agree, and it has to be said, that the optional, sorry, not optional, but the optimum URL would be by post name, and that would be that one there. So we have our domain name / the title of the post, and that's as good as it gets. But we could also take a look at the day and the name, the month and the name, a numeric URL, and a custom structure. Okay, so moving on, and we have then the last two things. It's under the heading optional, and if you like, you may enter custom structures for your category and tag URLs here. For example, using topics as your category base would make your category links look like, and it's, as you can see here, topics uncategorized. If you leave these blank, the defaults will be used. So you would put in the category names here and your tag base here to have them show up as you would want. But pretty much that's pretty much going to cover this part of WordPress. So we're going to select Save Changes, and we're good to go. Okay, so that's pretty much the general settings of WordPress, certainly for the purposes of this lesson. So we've covered each of the settings in the General Settings tab, and they should be all set up and ready to go, and you should be in very, very good shape. The next session that we're going to move on to now is a couple of the plugins, and I'm going to mix it up just to keep it interesting for each of you. So we did WordPress settings, now we're going to do a couple of WordPress plugins, then we'll do something else with WordPress, and then do some plugins and so on. And it should keep your level of interest quite high. So with that said, I think we should just go and get on with it. And we will go and look at, so I'm just trying to think. I think we'll go and, yes, we'll go and install the AskMit spam filter. And we'll also go and look at CCS.me and a couple of others, just to keep things interesting, as I say. Okay, so let's move over to my screen and we'll continue from there. Okay? Okay, so here we are over on the plugins section of your WordPress installation. And the first plugin that we're going to have a look at today is Akismet. And what that basically does is protects your comments from spam. So let's have a look at Akismet. And as you can see, it's the first one here that's automatically installed on the WordPress, on any WordPress blog. And we just have to click activate to activate it. Now, there's a couple of steps. Now, it's saying activate your account if you don't already have one. Or if you do, then we just go into, sorry, I beg your pardon, we just go in then to activate the account. And I already have a key. And I'll just enter my key in here. Hopefully this will work. Okay, so that's my key working. Now, many of you may not have a key, and if that's so all we have to do is to go over to the website and get the WordPress key and say goodbye to your spam. So you basically click onto this, and it'll ask you for paid or for free, and it's really up to you. Now, the other thing is that if you sign in with your WordPress.com account, you get it for free. Okay, so don't be put off by this. Just sign on in with your WordPress.com account, and once you're in there, you'll get the key for free. And then we would come back to here and enter it into here and to activate your account. Now, the next thing is to look at is the settings. And basically, the settings are auto delete spam submitted on posts more than a month old. And we would want to check yes for that. Show the number of comments you have approved beside each comment author. And that's a doer, it's really an option up to you whether you click that or not. For now, I choose not to click it. And then we just click Save Changes. And here it's telling us the server connectivity is server stats, and it's working correctly. All servers are accessible, and there's the green status bar of the service. And the last time it was checked was 5 minutes ago. Now, for those of you who don't know what this is for, it's for basically, it houses databases of spam and multiple or habitual spammers, if you like. And what it does is basically, I've now told this platform to check with its own databases all emails, or not emails, I beg your pardon, all comments submitted to my website for spam tendencies. That is to say that people are it's looking at the spam comments made on my blog. So, for example, if somebody in India decided to attack my blog with spam, as opposed to somebody, say, from Europe, both comments would come in, both comments would go to this service, and both comments will be validated by this service as being either legitimate and or spam. And that, in a nutshell, basically does the job for us. It's a very good service, and it's one I highly recommend. In fact, it's the first one that you should install on your new WordPress blog. And there's really nothing more to do other than to let it do its work. And yeah, sure, you're going to get caught now and again. Some comment's going to be caught. It's going to be marked as spam, and maybe you'll see it, maybe you won't. But I mean, for what mistakes it makes is so minuscule, it's really worth having this on and having it operating. Okay, so that's that one. The next one that we're going to move on to is the next plugin, should I say, that we're going to add is a plugin that is pretty basic, but it's very handy for when you're customizing individual pages. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to install that. And it's called CSS Me. And if we just activate the plugin, and as you can see, there it is right there. Okay. So when we're talking about CSS Me, it allows us to style or to modify the style of the website. And it allows us to do it on a per page basis. So first of all, I should probably say, for those of you who don't know about CSS and HTML and things like that, that there's absolutely nothing to worry about. That it's something that we'll cover, and it's something that you will become quite familiar with as we move through this course. But CSS Me allows us to manage individual pages and to change, for example, the font or the colors or the layout and such like. And believe me, while you're starting off, you might think, oh, I don't know how to use this and I don't want to use it. And that's perfectly fine. That's absolutely fine by all means. But on the other hand, there's many people out there who want to style sales pages, landing pages, brochure pages, and what have you. And this would be the thing to use. So probably best if I just give you a quick example. So if we go to pages, so let's go in and we don't have any pages. Okay. So if we add new, and we can take a look, and it'll show me that down here is where you add the custom CCS. Now, CCS stands for Cascading Style Sheet, and it's really not that troublesome. I mean, when we go and we look at what would I do? View page source. In here we can see all of the different scripts and languages, programming languages and what have you, and it all looks very, very confusing. Now, after we get through some of the course modules, none of this is going to look in any way confusing in any shape or form to you. Now, I promise you that you're going to be able to see many, many things in here that will allow you to change exactly what it is that you will change your perspective, for one, on how WordPress operates, and B, or number two, how easy it is for you to change the style of WordPress. And what I mean by that is that you'll be able to come in here and say you're creating a landing page or an opt-in page, and you can change pretty much everything that you would like to change. And it's going to give you the ability to move things around quite easily and such like. So don't be put off by this. It is very, very easy. It's very simple to understand. And again, it's very, very user-friendly. Okay, so actually, I think what the easiest thing would be to do is to, let me just go here to, sorry, let's go and copy some text. Copy. Okay. And we go in here and paste it in. And it looks pretty good. It looks fine, actually. Now, if we go, so this is structured for a WordPress website. However, if I go and have a look at it here, now we see it in a different format. And basically that format is in raw code data, if you like. So it's not showing any of the breaks or anything like that. It's just jumbled it all together and put it into the website. So if I just take you quickly to here, and let's just say that this is the page, and it's on line 100, that there's an error on line 100. And when we go back to WordPress and we look in here, there is no lines, and that's really, really annoying. And it costs an awful lot of time for you in terms of finding where you program something incorrectly into your WordPress. So what we have to do is to add a plugin. So we go over to plugins, add new, and we're just going to put in WP editor, and let's do a search for that. And there it is. So we install that now. Activate the plugin. And there it is, right there for us. So here we are inside the settings for the WP editor. And the good news is that you actually don't have to mess with this because it's already set up, and it's really, you can come in and change anything that you want, but in effect you don't need to. And it's got the theme editor. Again, you don't have to mess with this. Everything is good. The plugin editor, the default theme, line wrapping, highlight active line, spaces, tab size 2, editor height, and so on. and it looks pretty good, and it'll be of no end of use to you wherever we go. So you can access it by clicking the WP editor down here. But if we go now and have a look at the page that we created and take a look and see how that WP editor has changed our life, well, we can look here at the permalinks, or I beg your pardon, at the visual text, and it looks fine, and that's really good. But if we go over now to the text, what we can see here is very, very useful. What it's done is basically put in the line numbers, okay? And so each section of code has its own line, and very easily we can identify what line number, if any, that we need to go to and we need to work on, or we need to check, and it just makes it look so much easier and so much more pleasant to work in. And probably the other thing that I should mention is that this actually this has now taken place on all of your pages. So pages or posts, you will now have these numbers showing up inside the text editor of your WordPress installation. Okay, so that's about it for today. I think we've covered enough. I think some interesting plugins have been installed. I think also that you will have a lot to take in and a lot to understand. But again, there's nothing to be worried about. This stuff is so easy, it's just not funny. And as we go through each module, you will actually learn each step, and pretty soon you'll become pretty comfortable with the style sheet, for example. You'll be comfortable with the line numbers and all of those good things. But for now, I think is a good place to stop. And in the next session, we're going to add more plugins and do some more WordPress and things like that. So I hope you really enjoyed today. Thank you for being with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next session. Thanks very much, and goodbye.